The Mountain Men is a 1980 American Western adventure film directed by Richard Lang. The film stars Charlton Heston and Brian Keith as two aging fur trappers in the Rocky Mountains during the 1830s. The movie is notable for its portrayal of the rugged lifestyle of mountain men and their interactions with Native American tribes, as well as the stunning cinematography of the natural landscapes. The Mountain Men follows the adventures of Bill Tyler, Charlton Heston, and Henry Frapp, Brian Keith, two seasoned mountain men who have spent years trapping and trading furs in the untamed wilderness of the American frontier. The story begins with Tyler and Frapp reuniting after a long separation. They embark on a journey through the Rocky Mountains, navigating treacherous terrain and hostile encounters with Native American tribes, particularly the Blackfoot, who are led by a fierce warrior named Heavy Eagle, Stephen Macht. Charlton Heston and Brian Keith deliver strong performances as the two leads. Heston portrays Bill Tyler as a tough, resourceful, and somewhat cynical mountain man, while Keith's Henry Frapp is depicted as more carefree and humorous, providing a contrast to Heston's character. The film is noted for its beautiful cinematography, capturing the vast and rugged landscapes of the Rocky Mountains. The natural scenery plays a significant role in the film, emphasizing the isolation and danger of the wilderness. The Mountain Men received mixed reviews from critics upon its release. Some praised the film for its scenic visuals, action sequences, and the performances of Heston and Keith. However, others criticized it for its uneven pacing, stereotypical portrayal of Native Americans, and a surprising amount of gross-out humor. Charlton Heston's son, Fraser Clark Heston, co-wrote the screenplay for the film. The Mountain Men was released on June 1st, 1980. The film holds a 43% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.3 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey movie buffs! Dive into the quirky world of The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood, the hilarious 1980 comedy directed by Alan Roberts. This flick is the final laugh in the trilogy inspired by the wildlife of Xaviera Hollander, a famous ex-call girl turned best-selling author. Get ready to follow Xaviera Hollander, brilliantly portrayed by Martine Beswick, as she takes on Tinseltown. Our glam and witty heroine pens a screenplay about her life and heads to Hollywood hoping to see her story on the big screen. But Hollywood isn't all glitz and glam, it's packed with some pretty sketchy folks. Think sleazy producers, greedy agents, and double-dealing executives. Speaking of irony, did you know the movie was one of the first to be produced by the notorious duo Menahem Golan and Yoram Globus? Martine Beswick shines as Xaviera, bringing her charismatic and playful vibe to every scene. Fun fact, she was a Bond girl in From Russia with Love and Thunderball. Phil Silvers cracks us up as the dodgy producer William B. Walkoff, and look out for Adam West as another crafty producer, Lionel Lamely. But it wasn't all smooth sailing on set. Martine Beswick was nearly out the door because of the film's overload of steamy scenes, and Kim Hopkins, who played young Xaviera, had a standoff with the director over a topless scene. Thankfully, she held her ground. Though critics weren't exactly fans, The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood has carved out its niche as a cult classic from the 80s, remembered more for its connection to the Happy Hooker memoirs than its own zany antics. And did you know, this film was the swan song for Phil Silvers, beloved for his role as Sergeant Bilko and on The Phil Silvers Show from the 50s. Don't miss out on this oddball piece of cinema history. The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood was released on June 4th, 1980. It has no critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.9 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Galaxina is a 1980 science fiction comedy film directed by William Sachs. The movie is a parody of the science fiction genre, particularly Star Wars and other popular sci-fi films and television shows of the 1970s set in the 31st century. Galaxina follows the adventures of the crew aboard the intergalactic police spaceship, the Infinity. The crew consists of several quirky characters, including the captain, Cornelius Butt, played by Avery Schreiber, and a beautiful humanoid robot named Galaxina, played by Dorothy Stratton. Galaxina is the ship's pilot, who is programmed to be obedient and emotionless. But as the story progresses, she begins to develop human-like feelings. Galaxina is primarily a parody of science fiction tropes and films, featuring exaggerated characters and humorous takes on common sci-fi scenarios. Dorothy Stratton plays the titular character, Galaxina. At the time, Stratton was a rising star and a Playboy playmate. Tragically, Stratton was murdered by her estranged husband the day before the film received its first release outside of its Hollywood premiere in June of 1980. The same day newspapers were reporting on Stratton's death, the film's ad campaign announcing the movie is now playing was appearing in newspapers for the first time. Producers were forced to scramble to remove the ads and the film from release out of respect for the late star. The film would not see a full theatrical release until November of 1980, at which time it was met with jeers from critics and was ignored by audiences as the film was completely overshadowed by Stratton's tragic death. Today, Galaxina is remembered both for its place in the pantheon of sci-fi parodies and as a showcase for Stratton's brief but memorable acting career. A little-known fact about Galaxina is that the film's spaceship, the Infinity, was actually a repurposed model from the television series Battlestar Galactica. The production team reused and modified models and props from various sci-fi shows and movies to save costs, which was a common practice in low-budget films of that era. Galaxina holds a 14% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.7 out of 10 rating from users of IMDb.
In the 31st century, man finally created Galaxina, a machine with feelings.
I'm better than a human woman.
Transistorized, computerized, idolized.
Quivering Venusian blubber cups.
Playboy's Playmate of the Year is the out-of-this-world robot, but don't push the wrong button.
Ouch!
Crown International Pictures presents Galaxina, rated R. May the farce be with you. Someday in space, among the mysterious bodies of the universe, will be the most heavenly body of them all, Galaxina. Galaxina, a dream machine.
I'm better than a human woman.
Galaxina, she defies gravity.
Your brains need a brassiere.
Galaxina, the pause that refreshes. Crown International Pictures presents Every Man's Fantasy. Galaxina, rated R.
Up the Academy is a 1980 teen comedy directed by Robert Downey Sr. The movie was produced by Mad Magazine, known for its satirical and often irreverent humor. The film is a parody of military academy life and the coming-of-age genre, akin to the humor style of other teen comedies of the late 1970s. The plot centers around four misfit teenagers who are sent to the academy by their frustrated parents in an attempt to instill discipline in them. The four boys band together to survive the harsh and absurd military-style discipline enforced by the Academy's staff, including the tyrannical Major Vaughn Leisman, played by Ron Leibman. This film marked the debut of Ralph Macchio, who would later become famous for his role as Daniel LaRusso in the Karate Kid series. One other piece of Up the Academy trivia, special effects legend Rick Baker created the Alfred E. Newman masks used in the film. Up the Academy was not well received by critics or audiences upon its release. The film was criticized for its weak plot, crude humor, and lack of coherence. The negative reception even led Mad Magazine to disassociate itself from the film, going so far as to remove all references to it in later issues of the magazine. Ron Leibman, who played Major Lyserman, was reportedly so unhappy with the film that he had his name removed from the credits. Despite its initial failure, Up the Academy has remained a pop curiosity since its release. It's remembered as the movie that caused Mad Magazine to stop making movies. Up the Academy was released on June 6, 1980. The film holds a 0 critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a generous 4.7 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey movie buffs, let's take a trip back to 1980 with Clint Eastwood in Bronco Billy, a fun mix of comedy, drama and some good old Western charm. Directed by and starring Clint himself, the film also features Sondra Locke, Scatman Crothers and Jeffrey Lewis, giving us a peek into a modern-day Wild West show and its colourful crew. So what's the scoop on Bronco Billy? Well, it's about this former New York shoe salesman, played by Eastwood, who is totally obsessed with cowboy life. He's the boss of a travelling Wild West show, bringing the thrill of gunfights, trick shooting and knife throwing to small towns all over the US. Now, this gang he's with, they're a bunch of misfits who've pretty much become family. There's Doc Lynch, the ex-con doctor, Lefty LeBeau, a one-time army officer, and Chief Big Eagle, playing the part of a Native American. It's as quirky as it gets. Things get even more interesting when Antoinette Lilly, played by Sondra Locke, crashes the party. She's this rich heiress who's out of cash and luck after her hubby ditches her during their honeymoon. She starts off clashing with Bronco Billy, but guess what? Despite all the chaos and the crazy adventures, including run-ins with the law and some serious cash problems, this gang sticks together, showing us what friendship and family really mean. Bronco Billy is one of those heartwarming flicks that's all about the underdog and sticking together. Unlike Clint's tougher roles, this one's got a sweet, nostalgic vibe, making you root for these lovable outsiders. Critics were torn when it came out. Some loved its charm and humour, while others thought it was a bit too mushy. But hey, it's since become a cult classic, loved by fans who dig its unique style. Clint Eastwood poured his heart into this movie, even calling it one of his personal faves. He said it mirrored his own life in many ways, taking the path less travelled and chasing dreams no matter what. Released on June 11, 1980, Bronco Billy didn't break the box office, but it made a neat profit, pulling in about $24 million on a $5 million budget. It's got a solid 75% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.1 rating on IMDb. Hey horror hounds! Ever heard of The Children? This eerie 1980 flick directed by Max Kalmanowicz is a must-watch if you're into low-budget scares that have somehow turned into cult classics. And yes, it's as creepy as it sounds. So here's the scoop on the plot. In the tiny town of Ravensback, a school bus full of kids drives through a radioactive cloud from a nearby nuclear power plant. Sounds safe, right? Wrong. These kids turn into zombies with a freaky power. They can fry you with just a touch. Talk about a bad case of static shock. Now, these zombified kiddos start terrorizing the town, including their own families. The local sheriff, Billy Hart, and Kathy Fremont, a mom to one of these scary kids, are on a mission to uncover the truth and find a way to stop them. Spoiler, it involves some drastic measures like, hand severing, yikes. The film has got all the good stuff, fear, twisted innocence, and a bit of environmental caution thrown in. It really plays on the horror of seeing cute kids turn into merciless monsters, amping up the chill factor. At its release, reviews were almost all bad. Critics weren't fans of the production quality or the acting, though the wild premise and unsettling vibes caught the attention of the horror community. Normie film critics spilled a lot of ink to say they weren't fans of The Children. Here's some trivia. Did you know The Children was originally going to be called The Children of Ravensback? Plus those spine-tingling effects, all done with practical in-camera tricks to keep it real gritty. And let's not forget the synth-heavy soundtrack by Harry Manfredini, the famed composer behind the original Friday the 13th, which really sets the eerie mood. The Children was released on June 13, 1980. The film has no critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, but users on IMDb rated it 5.4 out of 10. The Island is a 1980 adventure horror film directed by Michael Ritchie and based on the novel of the same name by Peter Benchley, who also wrote the screenplay. The movie stars Michael Caine, David Warner, Angela Punch McGregor, and Frank Middlemass. It combines elements of adventure, horror, and thriller genres, telling a story of modern-day piracy in the Caribbean. The film follows Blair Maynard, played by Michael Caine, a British-American journalist working for a New York magazine. He is investigating the mysterious disappearance of ships in the Caribbean Sea. Determined to get a good story, Blair travels to the region with his young son, Justin, played by Jeffrey Frank, hoping to uncover the truth behind the vanishing vessels. What he finds are bloodthirsty, feral pirates who may be behind all of the disappearances attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. Upon its release, The Island was not well received by critics and was a commercial disappointment. The film's violent content, along with what some considered a far-fetched plot, contributed to its negative reception. A little-known fact about The Island is that it was partly inspired by real-life events. Peter Benchley based the story on reports of ship disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle and tales of Caribbean piracy. Benchley, who also wrote the novel Jaws, used similar elements of suspense and danger from the sea to create the story of The Island. Interestingly, Michael Caine later admitted that he took on the role in The Island, partly because he wanted to buy a new house. He has jokingly referred to this and other similar choices in his career as paycheck movies, taking on films primarily for financial reasons rather than artistic ones. The Island was released on June 13, 1980. The film holds a 33% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.3 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Roadie is a 1980 American comedy film directed by Alan Rudolph, featuring Meat Loaf, Cocky Hunter, and Art Carney. The film delves into the exciting but chaotic world of rock and roll, seen through the eyes of the roadies who set up and dismantle equipment for touring rock bands. The plot centers on Travis W. Redfish, played by Meat Loaf, a beer truck driver from Texas with mechanical skills who lives with his father, Corpus C. Redfish, portrayed by Art Carney. Travis's life takes a turn when he meets Lola Bouillabaisse, a groupie aspiring to meet rock stars like Alice Cooper. Played by Cocky Hunter, Lola's ambition leads to a series of adventures with Travis, involving real-life musicians such as Blondie and Hank Williams Jr. Roadie blends comedy, romance and adventure, poking fun at the rock lifestyle while exploring themes of love, dedication and ambition. Its humorous, episodic narrative features cameos from musicians like Roy Orbison and Alice Cooper, enhancing its authentic rock vibe. The film was part of a short-lived wave of music stars, leading movies that began with Kenny Rogers in The Gambler and included Willie Nelson in Honeysuckle Rose and the Village People in Can't Stop the Music, all released within months of each other. Fun fact, a Houston television station made a behind-the-scenes documentary on Roadie months before the movie was released. The producer of the documentary has made the documentary available to watch for free on YouTube. We've linked the documentary in the comments, and thank you to the producer, Jim Lutz, for preserving this unique, almost forgotten piece of history. Behind-the-scenes documentaries like this were a rarity, a DVD extra before DVDs existed, and the few that exist haven't made the jump to YouTube or found any online home. Another odd fact about Roadie? Zalman King, creator of the Red Shoe Diaries, was producer on Roadie. One more fun fact, as United Artists was seeking ways to promote Roadie, they floated the idea of giving free tickets to anyone who brought an armadillo with them to the theatre. Legendary columnist Marilyn Beck included this fact in her column on March 13, 1980. It appeared in hundreds of newspapers across the country. Rhodey was released on June 13, 1980. The film holds a 14% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.3 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Holy Moses is a 1980 American biblical comedy film directed by Gary Weiss and starring Dudley Moore, Lorraine Newman, and James Coco. The film takes a satirical look at biblical stories, similar in style and humor to the 1979 film Monty Python's Life of Brian. The screenplay was written by Guy Thomas. The film follows Harvey Orchid, played by Dudley Moore, a 20th century American tourist visiting Israel with his wife, Zoe, played by Lorraine Newman. During their trip, Harvey stumbles upon a hidden ancient scroll that tells the story of Herschel, also played by Dudley Moore, a Hebrew who was born at the same time as Moses but constantly lived in his shadow. In addition to Dudley Moore and Lorraine Newman, the film features an ensemble cast that includes James Coco, Dom DeLuise, Madeline Kahn, John Houseman, Richard Pryor, and John Ritter. Upon its release, Holy Moses received largely negative reviews from critics. The film was criticized for its uneven tone, lack of cohesive humor, and failure to effectively satirize its biblical source material. Many reviewers felt that the movie was a poor imitation of Monty Python's Life of Brian, lacking the sharp wit and cleverness that made that film a success. Dudley Moore received his first $1 million paycheck for his leading role in Holy Moses. Producers were so eager to keep Dudley Moore happy on set that they made sure he had a Steinway piano available so he could play between takes. Lorraine Newman was commuting between the set of Holy Moses to New York for Saturday Night Live. Commercially, the film did not perform well at the box office and was considered a disappointment. Despite its strong cast and potential for a humorous take on biblical stories, it failed to resonate with audiences at the time. Holy Moses was released on June 13, 1980. The film holds a 13% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.8 out of 10 on IMDb. Animalympics is a 1980 animated comedy film produced by Lisberger Studios and directed by Steven Lisberger. The movie is a parody of the Olympic Games, featuring a variety of anthropomorphic animals competing in their own version of the Olympics, known as the Animalympics. The animation style is colourful and vibrant, with a strong emphasis on caricature and exaggeration to bring the various animal characters to life. Animalympics features a talented voice cast, including Billy Crystal, Gilda Radner, and Harry Shearer as the voices of various animal competitors. The soundtrack of Animalympics was composed by Graham Gouldman of the band 10cc and features a variety of songs that enhance the film's whimsical and energetic atmosphere. The music includes a mix of pop, rock, and disco styles, fitting the film's late 1970s and early 1980s vibe. A little-known fact about Animalympics is that it was produced by the same team behind the 1982 science fiction film Tron, also directed by Steven Lisberger. The animation work and style of Animalympics helped pave the way for the innovative techniques used in Tron. Lisberger also employed the talents of future Lion King director Roger Allers and future Iron Giant creator Brad Bird as animators on Animalympics. Additionally, Animalympics was impacted by real-world events. The $1 million production of the Animalympics was funded by NBC, which intended to pair the animation with its coverage of the 1980 Olympic Games. Animalympics was thus made in two parts, with the Winter Animalympics airing on NBC in February of 1980, to coincide with the Olympics in Lake Placid. Then, when America boycotted the Summer Olympics in Moscow, NBC cancelled the premiere of the Summer Animalympics. In order to recoup expenses, The two parts of Olympics were cut together as a feature film, which then did not find a distributor in America. The film was sold to foreign markets where it was well received, and eventually, Olympics found great success in the burgeoning home video market. Olympics has no critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a solid 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb. Hey movie buffs, hold on to your popcorn because we're diving into the cinematic chaos that is Rough Cut, a delightful mishmash of romance, comedy, and a sprinkle of suspense. Directed by, well, practically half of Hollywood, thanks to some off-the-charts behind-the-scenes drama, this 1980 heist film stars the ever-charming Burt Reynolds, the radiant Leslie Ann Down, and the dashing David Niven. Rough Cut throws us into the glitzy world of Jack Rhodes, played by the mustache maestro himself, Burt Reynolds, a jewel thief with more smooth moves than a tango dancer. His next big score, a pile of uncut diamonds that could probably buy a small island. But plot twist. Enter Chief Inspector Cyril Willis, played by the suave David Niven, who's on a mission to slap those shiny handcuffs on Rhodes. His master plan? Use the gorgeous and equally crafty Gillian Bromley, Leslie Ann Down, as bait. She's supposed to seduce our leading man and then bam, trap set. But as any good rom-com goes, things get complicated when hearts and double crosses are thrown into the mix. As for the production, oh, you're in for a treat. Imagine musical chairs but with directors. Originally kicked off by David Merrick and Blake Edwards, then handed to screenwriter Larry Gelbart, who apparently had enough and noped out he had his name taken off the movie. Enter Don Siegel, who got the boot, replaced by Peter Hunt, then Siegel's back. Confused yet? Just wait, there's more. Despite everyone finally agreeing on an ending, Merrick pulls a fast one and films a new one that, spoiler alert, everybody hated. Despite all the directorial debauchery, Rough Cut managed to pull off a modest box office performance, and critics, well, they were as mixed as a cocktail at a wild Hollywood party. There's no love from the Rotten Tomatoes critics, but hey, a 5.7 rating on IMDb isn't the worst thing ever, right? So if you're in for a rom-com heist with more plot twists than a pretzel factory and a behind-the-scenes story that could be its own soap opera, Rough Cut is your go-to flick this weekend. Catch it before it steals away into the night of forgotten cinema. Classic cinema chaos. Rough Cut revelry. Hey there, movie maniacs and blues enthusiasts. Crank up the volume because we're diving into the riotous world of The Blues Brothers, the 1980 musical comedy that turned the cinema into a rockin' juke joint. Meet Joliet, Jake and Elwood, played by the legendary John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. These two bros aren't just rocking the shades and the killer suits, they're on a mission from God to save the only home they've ever known. A Catholic orphanage on the brink of closure due to a pesky $5,000 tax bill. So what's their grand plan? Reunite their old R&B band, hit the stage and raise some cash. Simple, right? Well, not exactly. Their road to redemption is paved with insane car chases, through shopping malls no less, bizarre run-ins with neo-Nazis and a vengeful mystery woman with a bazooka. Talk about taking a detour. The gang is all here. James Brown shaking up the soul as Reverend Cleophas James, Aretha Franklin belting out as Mrs. Murphy, Ray Charles tickling the ivories as Ray, and many more. Not just a laugh riot. The Blues Brothers serves up a feast of musical legends that'll have you grooving long after the credits roll. And let's not forget those epic car chase scenes that practically invented the term road rage in cinema. Despite busting the budget, this flick raked in over $115 million and still rides high with a cult following, thanks in part to its bodacious blend of tunes, humour and high-octane action. Celebrating its undying charm, The Blues Brothers is a high-speed, rollicking adventure that's more fun than a shopping cart derby in a mall. Remember, it's 106 miles to Chicago. We've got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark out, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it! So don't be a couch potato. Fire up your favourite streaming service and let Jake and Elwood take you on a wild ride you won't forget. And keep your eyes peeled. You never know when you might need to dodge a flying car or a nun with a ruler. The Blues Brothers was released on June 20th, 1980. The film holds a 72% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.9 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey, movie buffs and conspiracy theorists, strap in, because you're about to revisit a film where Robert Redford isn't just a pretty face. He's a prison-breaking, corruption-exposing super warden. This is Brubaker. Imagine sneaking into a prison not to break out, but to break in. That's right, Robert Redford, aka Henry Brubaker, pulls the old switcheroo and lands himself in the slammer. On purpose, why? To sniff out the rats of corruption and make some serious changes. It's like Undercover Boss, but with more shivs and less coffee breaks. Just when the cons are getting comfy with their new buddy Brubaker, bam! He reveals he's the new warden. Talk about a party pooper, right? But this isn't just about flipping the script and stirring the pot. It's a gritty showdown against some seriously sketchy folks who'd rather see Brubaker disappear. Themes? Oh, we've got 'em. Justice, power struggles, and a David vs. Goliath battle against systemic corruption. It's got more layers than a prison lasagna. Critics back in the day were all over it like guards on a perimeter breach, praising Redford's rugged charm and the film's no-holds-barred look at prison life. Did it make big bucks? You bet. With a budget of $9 million, it pulled a cool $37.1 million at the box office. Not bad for a bunch of guys in jumpsuits, huh? Nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Brubaker's not just a trip down criminal lane, it's a dive into the murky waters of moral dilemmas and the battle for a brighter tomorrow. Behind bars. Tune in, turn up, and break out the popcorn. This is one throwback thriller you don't want to miss. Brubaker was released on June 20th, 1980. The film holds a 75% positive critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a solid 7.1 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Can't Stop the Music. The movie that proves disco is like that one guest at the party who never knows when it's time to leave. Still grooving, still moving, and weirdly unkillable. Sequins, sparkles, and some dubious decision-making. Picture this, you're Jack Morrell, aka Steve Guttenberg in his disco prime. A hopeful songwriter whose biggest hit is probably his morning shower performance. His master plan to climb the charts? Team up with his roommate, the ex-runway dazzler Samantha Simpson, played by the ever-glamorous Valerie Perrine. Their brilliant idea: form a band that looks more like a glam squad on Halloween. Welcome to the stage, the village people. Get your YMCA arm moves ready and dive into a whirlpool of macho man, shiny pants and disco balls that just won't quit. Whether you were born to boogie or just in it for the laughs, these tunes are guaranteed to get your feet moving, or at least give you a good chuckle. Critics weren't fans, but what do they know? Oh, the critics, they absolutely love to hate it. Joe Baltaki said, "We need to stop the music ASAP." John Omwaki winced. If only it was possible to actually stop the music. And John Bream dropped the mic with, "Can't stop the music cast, can't act either." Despite the shade, producer Alan Carr went all out, throwing money around like confetti at a disco-themed wedding. Think of it as the 1980s equivalent of a Marvel movie premiere, but with more sequins and less plot logic. Baskin-Robbins jumped in with Can't Stop the Nuts, an ice cream flavour that left people wondering, who thought this was a good idea? Famous Amos shot back with Can't Stop the Cookies, because nothing says disco like dessert, right? And let's not forget the American Dairy Council, who somehow decided Milk Shake was the perfect theme song for American Dairy Month. a choice that's as baffling as it is bizarrely appropriate for this film. With an eye-watering $31 million thrown into the disco inferno and a paltry $2 million crawling back, Can't Stop the Music boogied straight into the So Bad It's Good Hall of Fame. So mark your calendars. June 20th, 1980 was the day disco refused to die. Critics score a pitiful 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score a cringy 4.2 on IMDb. Sometimes the movies you love are the ones you'll never admit to, but we know you'll be secretly streaming it tonight. Come on, we won't judge. Hey folks, buckle up and peel out with the quirkiest car in cinema, Herbie. Yup, that's right, the love bug's back and he's bananas in more ways than one in his zaniest adventure yet. Herbie Goes Bananas. Imagine inheriting a car that has more personality than your quirky Aunt Edna on a sugar rush. That's what happens to Pete Stanchek, who, along with his buddy DJ, lands the legendary Volkswagen Beetle with a mind of its own. Their bright idea: race Herbie in the Brazilian Gran Premio. Because why not? The prize money's hot, and so is the competition. But wait, there's more. Enter Paco, the pint-sized pickpocket who could probably steal your socks without taking off your shoes. This kid teams up with Herbie and suddenly it's not just about racing, it's a full-blown gear-grinding adventure to outsmart a gang of gold smugglers. I mean, who needs a GPS when you've got a car that's basically a four-wheeled detective? Chaos ensues, including a bullfight that turns into a dance-off with Herbie doing the cha-cha. You think your cruise vacations are wild? Try throwing in a chaotic chase through the Panama Canal. Star car alert. Herbie isn't just any Beetle. He's a show-off. This cheeky car surfs on bananas, winks his headlights, and practically does stand-up comedy, if stand-up involved oil patches and tyre squeals. And despite what critics say, let's be real, when have they ever liked fun? Herbie Goes Bananas is the roller coaster ride of laughs you didn't know you needed. Filmed in picturesque Mexico and aboard the fabulous and probably now dizzy SS Sun Princess, this film's a visual treat with a side of slapstick. So, if you're in for a throwback movie night that's less about the plot and more about the LOLs, Herbie Goes Bananas is your ticket. Catch Herbie Goes Bananas. It's not just a movie, it's a party on wheels. Herbie Goes Bananas was released on June 25th, 1980. The film holds a 40% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.9 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey movie buffs, let's rewind to 1980 when Disney gave us The Last Flight of Noah's Ark. This adventure flick, directed by Charles Jarrott, stars the charming Elliot Gould, Genevieve Boo-Jold, little Ricky Schroeder, and Vincent Gardenia. So, what's the scoop on this old-school Disney gem? Here's the rundown. Elliot Gould plays Noah Dugan, a pilot who's seen better days. He gets roped into flying a World War II-era B-29 bomber, loaded up with a bunch of farm animals, to a remote Pacific island. But here's the twist. The plane's also secretly carrying two stowaway orphans, Bobby and Julie. This crew ends up crash landing on a deserted island, and that's where the real adventure begins. The vibe, it's classic Disney with a mix of adventure, laughs, and a touch of drama. The themes, survival, friendship, and tackling the unexpected. It's light-hearted and totally family-friendly. What the critics said? Well, it was a bit of a mixed bag. While some critics loved the cast, especially Gould and Schroeder, others weren't too keen on the plot and special effects. Despite that, it's got that nostalgic charm that some of us really dig. Fun fact, Disney tried to boost ticket sales by pairing it with the re-release of 101 Dalmatians, a Disney classic that had not been seen in theatres in nearly 20 years. It didn't quite do the trick, though, as Noah's Ark didn't smash the box office. But hey, still worth a watch for a cozy movie night. Legacy Talk. While it's not one of Disney's blockbuster hits, The Last Flight of Noah's Ark holds a special place as a unique entry in their late 20th century lineup. It's got a small but dedicated fan base that loves its adventurous spirit. Released on June 25, 1980, The Last Flight of Noah's Ark didn't make waves at the box office, and it's rocking a kinda okay 5.710 on IMDb. But it did get that legendary Disney clamshell VHS release, so it's got that going for it. Hey movie buffs, let's talk about a film that's a real head spinner, The Stuntman from 1980, directed by the genius Richard Rush. This movie's a wild ride, mixing action, drama, and a bit of dark comedy that'll have you questioning what's real and what's just movie magic. So here's the scoop. Plot summary: meet Cameron, played by the intense Steve Railsback. He's a fugitive on the lam who crashes into a World War I movie set, run by the eccentric and kind of manipulative director Eli Cross, portrayed by the legendary Peter O'Toole. Cameron ends up pretending to be a stuntman. The last guy kicked the bucket doing a stunt, just to dodge the cops. The more he gets sucked into the film within the film, the fuzzier things get between reality and make-believe, thanks to Eli's mind games. Talk about a wild workplace, huh? Key characters: Eli Cross, Peter O'Toole. This guy's the master of his domain, pulling strings like a puppeteer to get what he wants on set. O'Toole absolutely nails this role. Cameron, Steve Railsback. Our main guy, a vet with more than just the cops on his tail, dives headfirst into the crazy world of movie making. His journey keeps us on the edge of our seats. Nina Franklin, Barbara Hershey. She's the star of the movie and the apple of Cameron's eye. But in a world where nothing's as it seems, can he trust her? Themes and style. The Stuntman is all about blurring lines. Is what you're seeing real, or is it just a clever trick? The film flips from thrilling to funny, keeping you guessing with every scene. Director Richard Rush has this cool way of keeping things stylish yet totally disorienting. Critical reception. Critics loved this film, especially Peter O'Toole's standout performance that snagged him an Oscar nom. Director Richard Rush got some well-deserved kudos too. Although it wasn't a blockbuster at the box office, it's become a cult classic over time. Legacy. Despite its rocky start, seriously, it took nearly 10 years to hit the screens. The Stuntman has left its mark for its bold storytelling and sharp commentary on the craziness behind filmmaking. So if you've got a taste for something a little offbeat and thought-provoking, check out The Stuntman. It's a trip worth taking in the movie world. The Stuntman was released on June 27, 1980. The film holds a 91% positive critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7 out of 10 on IMDb.